Hey guys, MetalJesus here, and today I am back with Kinsey.
And today we're going to talk about 8 games that could have been great. They're good games, but they needed a little extra help.
I know, so close. Let's take a look. So today's video, as we mentioned, is going to be games that were so close. They were mostly good, don't you think?
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part, but maybe there's like 1 or 2 things that kept it from greatness, right? Boy, this first one here, oh man. Final Fantasy XIII and its sequels.
Yeah, it just keeps going.
What to say about this? So, I was excited. This was, if I remember right, this was the first next-gen PlayStation 3 Final Fantasy game, right? I really enjoyed Final Fantasy XII.
I did too.
It was different, but I enjoyed it. And so I was so looking forward to this game. I was like, oh my god. I remember I bought it, came home. You know when you get like a new game, like an RPG, and you set aside an entire night?
Yep.
You get the drink out. You get situated in the couch. You know you're gonna have like, you know, a bunch of story stuff in the beginning. I was so excited. And then as the night wore on, my expectations went lower and lower and lower.
Yep. I pre-ordered this game and I kind of felt the same way. And I didn't beat it. Like,
yeah,
to be honest. Like
No, I didn't either. And so the primary complaint with this, there's several. I mean, and to be fair, I think this game could have been amazing. But it had one of the worst opening 20 hours, 10 hours, something like that, of a Final Fantasy game in recent memory.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's a corridor, for the most part. You just go forward for hours and hours and hours. There's very little exploration. There's a little things here and there, but for the most part, you're just going forward for so long. And even, just so you know, I went back to replay this recently because I was capturing the footage for this video.
Yeah.
Thinking, maybe it's not as bad as... No, it's as bad.
Yeah.
Also, too, in the beginning, the combat is just not very interesting.
No, it's very just like, just hit this one button a lot. And
Absolutely. And yes, this game opens up after, 20 hours or something like that. And you started, when this game came out, you started hearing reports of that. Oh, you gotta stick with it, 20 hours in and the game kind of opens up. Oh, the combat gets way better and way more complex towards the end, which it does. But you should not have to wade through a crappy game for that long.
I completely agree. And that's actually a turnoff for me when people were like, when I'm at like the 10-hour mark and I'm like, you guys, and they're like, just wait, 15-20, it'll be great. And I'm like, 15-20?
There's no other medium that people would put up with that. If I was to tell you, hey, there's a miniseries on, and oh, by the way, at the 15-hour mark, 15 episodes in, it gets good, really? Yeah. No. Same thing with movies and books and stuff like that. No, you wouldn't stick around for that. And so it's the one thing I do feel like this is kind of the last of that era of really pushing people to really long introductions. I just feel like people don't put up with that anymore.
Yeah, and I feel like at a certain point, I didn't even feel like it was the introduction anymore.
Right.
I
was just like, is this the game? I know. So, this game did sell well. It sold, I think, 6 million copies or something like that. And so Square Enix put 2 sequels into production. And so what was funny about that, of course, we got 13-2 and then also Lightning Returns. But by that time, the damage was done. I mean, I was tired of it. I mean, and to be fair, I haven't played, but I've heard that 13-2 is a much better game. I hope that's true. I hope to play it sometime. But I did not even want to think about Final Fantasy after that. I was so bummed.
Yeah, completely agree.
So, anyways, it's so close because if they would have fixed those couple things, I think it would. I mean, the graphics are amazing. The characters are cool. I love games that are kind of in the future like that. So, so close.
So close. And another game that was so close.
So close.
was Modellista.
When you picked this, I was like, oh my god, I know, so close.
Yeah, it has such a cool premise. And cel-shaded racer, really cool cars, fast. It has really cool levels, a lot of weather effects, and it's so cool. But when you're driving, you better hope there's no corners. because pretty much the whole game is like every road is covered in soaking wet leaves.
I know, and when you described it like that, I'm like, that is absolutely true. This game is a nightmare to drive. And it's shocking that it actually made it through their QA department and was shipped like that.
Yeah.
I know.
I don't get it, but this game had so much promise. And every time, still to this day, people might explain this to me. It's Cell Shaded Racer. I'm like, that does sound good. And I'm like, Kinsey.
You've do it before. But, I mean, to your point, if the racing model, the physics engine, or whatever it was, would have just been tweaked slightly, or just give us an option, like give us a casual mode or something where you turn off whatever crazy physics that was.
Yeah.
That this game would still be fun.
Yep. I mean, it's Capcom. Like, come
I know. And just the idea of a cel-shaded racer that looked like that at the time, it really stood out. Like, I know, I was really excited for it.
I'm still like drawn to the cover. I'm drawn to the idea, but damn.
So close. I know.
It's like the worst driving.
All right, next up for me is a game that I was so looking forward to. I'm a huge fan of the series, and that is Thief. So, Thief started on the PC. The first 2 games were amazing. The one on the original Xbox I actually liked. It was not everyone loved it, but I enjoyed it. And then when I heard that they were kind of rebooting it for current gen systems, I was like, hell yeah. And to be fair, this is actually a really good Thief game. It does many things right. However, there's a couple things it does that are kind of annoying. The level layout in this game, basically it's kind of medieval, steampunky. It's this medieval town, and medieval towns are definitely jumbled and kind of at odd angles. But the difficulty with this is that it was so hard to figure out where to go. And to give you an idea, so it'd give you a map, and in one quadrant you would have sort of like where you're supposed to go, but there's no path, and so you can't really go straight. So sometimes to get through a level, to get to the next part of it, it might be in the sewer, or it might be over a roof. There was really no indication as to where to go or how to get there. I played this game, beat this game, went back to replay it recently to capture some footage, and so I put 20, 30, maybe plus hours in here. I still couldn't get around. I was still lost, it has a couple of the little nitpicky things. They were trying to hide the load screens. And the way they did that was by having you press the square button. So like you would go around and you'd see like a little window that you could enter someone's house. To hide the load screen, they'd have you sitting there hammering the square button until it loaded. Oh. It was so dumb.
It's like the Mass Effect elevators. Yeah. But
interactive. And then the final complaint, again, for a game that I ultimately do like, it just was so close, the ending. It's one of these games where it ends and then there's credits and you're just like, really? Yeah, so kind of breaks my heart. So close, it could have been amazing.
And my next one is actually the first game I ever pre-ordered.
Oh.
That's how excited I was about this game. And that is Dark Cloud. And, I understand that there's a sequel that fixed a lot of my complaints, but at the time that this came out, this is what I wanted.
Right.
I wanted it to be, well, they also made him look like Link. And that made me really want it.
Right.
But when you play the first level of this game, it's so cool. There's like this city that all of its buildings are lost and you have to get in this dungeon and rebuild the city, which is cool. But then the dungeon is kind of underwhelming. Yeah. It's kind of empty.
That's what I felt too, that they're really empty. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like a brown cave. The floor's brown, the walls are brown, the ceiling's brown. Like, looks great.
Yeah.
But then as you're rebuilding the city, it's kind of fun. I liked it.
Yeah.
The issue I have is then when I got to the next level, it's like a desert level, I was like, oh, this area is really cool, and the dungeon's a little bit cooler, and then I was like, wait, this is the same. This is exactly the same. And the next level. And the next level. All they had to do was just add some mechanic, or add some underlying, like, other story kind of base quest to each, like, world. It would have made it so much better. I mean, they kind of had that, but nothing that would keep me around, though.
So close.
So close!
All right, the next one for me is it's currently just a downloadable title. I don't think they did a physical release for it. I have a little sticky here for me to remind me. That is an indie game called Inside. Now, this was made by the developers who also made Limbo, and it's a game that got really great reviews, and I do think it's super fun. Like, it's a 2D platformer puzzle game unlike anything else. It was such a joy to explore in this game and solve the puzzles. There's a little bit of a supernatural aspect to it where you control other sort of minions and and there's also underwater levels and all sorts of stuff. I loved it. I was in on this game 100%, and then the ending. And we won't spoil anything here because this is a relatively new game, but it's one of those games where you feel like, oh, they know where they're going with this.
Yeah.
Like there's a mythology to this. There's a really cool plot, and it just peters out at the end. It doesn't explain anything. It's weird. It's unexpected. Now, to be fair, there are 2 endings to this game. I got the bad one. But I've seen the good ending, and that doesn't make any sense either.
And the visuals are so striking.
Yes.
And it's such a fun game to play, and then to put all that work into it and just be like, what?
Well, and here's the thing, is that I'm the type of person that I love story-driven games, and I love it when somebody has a narrative that they want to tell. If you're a storyteller, tell me the ending. Don't do this whole, like, well, the ending can be whatever you make it to be. No, that's not my job. Yeah. No, it's your job to tell me what this was all about. And I feel a little bit, and I feel this way with movies and TV shows too, that I feel a little bit ripped off. Like, I feel it's like a cop-out. Like, no, even a little bit of text would have been nice.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a small thing that I feel like that they could have fixed to make this game just absolutely over the moon.
Yeah, definitely. And mine is actually 2 games. But,
yes.
And they're both for the same reason.
Yes, when you picked this one, I was like, ooh, we gotta pick this one.
Yeah, and so I have such nostalgia for PaRappa. I love it.
Oh, so many people do.
Yeah, I bought the remake of it. Like, I love this game. It is unnecessarily difficult. The timing is so bad. I was going to say weird, and I was like, no, it's bad.
I'm so glad you said this, because I've gone back to try to play this, going, because I didn't play it back in the day. So I was like, this is such a great game. I'm terrible at it.
Yeah.
And I have decent rhythm, and I played other rhythm games like Amplitude and Rock Band. My rhythm's okay.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell's wrong here?
It's really hard.
Yeah.
But unnecessarily hard. I know I'm on beat.
Right. Well, and also, too, that reminded me of Maestro with an exclamation point. Another game, I admittedly, I found this cheap, but it's a rhythm game, and it's a symphony rhythm game, which is something you normally don't see.
Yeah, it's really different. And I bought this game when it came out because I was like a band kid. So I was like, this is perfect.
Right.
And then I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, because you're playing the conductor.
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is one of the few games that uses actually the touch sensitivity of the PlayStation 2 controller. So many people don't know this, but those little buttons that are on the PlayStation 2 controller, they're not just on or off, they're actually touch sensitive. Now, most games don't use that because it's so hard to gauge such a small range. Well, this game does that.
Yeah.
And it's maddeningly tough.
Yeah, and even in Japan, they came out with a special controller for it. Didn't help.
But I love the concept.
I do too, and it's just not something that really gets done, and I just wish it was, better executed, because the idea is so cool. It
is so cool. All right, I've been recently replaying this game. I beat it originally. I don't know how I did that. That is Need for Speed The Run. So there's a ton of Need for Speed games. Some of them are good, some are bad. I think this is actually technically one of the better ones. This game is so cool because so many of the Need for Speed games are either like an open world, like it's one city, or maybe it's like closed loop or closed circuits or whatever. This is a game where basically it's like the Cannonball Run, where you're trying to get from, I believe, from San Francisco all the way across the East Coast, so all the way across America. So every road is its own track, right? Every level essentially is its own track, and it changes all the time. Like you go through the Rockies, you go through Nevada, you go through Las Vegas. It's fantastic. There's really not many games quite like this. However,
there it is.
For whatever reason, they decided to throw in moments that are quick time events. So your guy gets out in the story because he's being chased by the mob, gets out of his car, and then there's moments where like there's a crash and he's trying to get away from the cops, but all you're really doing is looking at the screen to see what button to push at the right time, or hammer the button like when a dog's chasing you.
And
it's like, what is this doing in the Need for Speed game? It's so weird.
Yeah, it seems really out of place because I like QuickTime events, but maybe not in Need for Speed.
No, I mean, it's just so bizarre. It takes you, and also too, what makes it worse is that the main character that you're playing is pretty much unlikable.
Oh.
So you don't even care.
Yeah.
Like, you want the dog to attack him. You want him to get pulled over by the cops. Like, he causes all this havoc, and he's supposed to get away. You're just like, I hate this guy.
Yeah. Just let me drive the car.
Just let me drive the car. I know. So, I did beat it back in the day. Trying to replay it today, I'm like, wow, I have no tolerance for this anymore. I don't care about this guy. Yeah, so close. It's too bad, really.
And my last one is a series that I was so excited was finally coming to America. And that is Dokapon Kingdom. And this series has been around for like a super long time in Japan. This is actually, I think, a remake of the fourth one, which was on the Super Famicom. And this is a Mario Party style. So you're moving around a board, but it's an RPG. And it's awesome because it's a 4-player RPG. And you're still, you can choose your different classes and your weapons, and like you have your RPG character that you're playing throughout this world. And it does some hilarious things. Like, if you meet up with another player on the board, and then you have like a turn-based battle, and if you beat like one of the players, you can really mess up their stuff. You can, depending on what levels you are and everything, you can change their hairstyle, which doesn't sound bad, but you can also give them a poop head.
So the person has to play from then on with this modification.
Yeah. And yeah, they have to go back to the castle to fix anything, but you're not always close to the castle.
Okay.
And you can rename a character, and
I think you told me about this.
Yeah. And
so you were playing with your boyfriend.
Yeah. And I kind of got... So my main complaint, I'll get back to that. My main complaint is how long this game is.
Okay.
Like, it's so long. And sometimes if you're not by the castle, you don't want to trek all the way back necessarily, because sometimes it's not necessary. It's only to fix something superficial. But that also makes it so I was named for 6 hours.
So let me get this straight. So you're playing with your boyfriend, and you battle, and he gets to rename your character, and what was your response to that?
I think at first I was like, what are you doing? Why? And he's like, you took my sword.
And so the rest of that time, you were called...
It was a magical moment in my life. But it just, like, this game has so much potential. It's so silly, it's so fun, but my God, like, I've played it for 8 hours and didn't finish the game mode.
Yeah, for a party game, that's unrealistic.
Yeah, it needs to be, 1 to 4 hours.
Oh yeah, sure.
No more than that.
An evening, you know what I mean? An evening, yeah.
And like, I've gone through the other modes, like...
I'm still laughing about
So it has such fun mechanics that are like stupid but great. It's such a good like drinking party game. I guess if you want to like marathon drink, like it's just it's so cool. It's such a weird, fun, quirky idea, but make some shorter maps.
Yeah. And again, that's something that could have easily been fixed, or if they would have just like beta tested it or got some feedback from the public, I'm sure that would have come up and they're like, oh, of course we can shorten it or whatever.
Yeah. I just want some fun like 1 to 2 hour maps, and that would be perfect for a party.
Yeah.
But damn.
Well, I mean, this kind of highlights just how easy it is to go from sort of like, a 9 or a 10 out of 10 review to something that's like, I don't have time for that. I'm not going to play that. And sometimes it's just so small, you know? It's unfortunate, really. And we could have gone on for a while. We actually had a list of games, as you can imagine, because you were also mentioning, I mentioned the original Tomb Raider. Like, those tank controls. I know.
And I was talking about like the original Witcher and Chrono Cross, like, super awesome games, but they have that.
This one's so
they got that thing.
I know. Well, we would love to know down in the comments, what are some games that just got so close to greatness? And we know there's going to be a ton of them. Would love to sort of see your list. I think that'd be pretty fun. All right, so where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at Kinzilla, Kinszilla, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then I also have a YouTube channel.
That's right. You guys should check it out. All right, guys, thanks very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and take care. Funny thing, I thought maybe going back and capturing footage of these games would somehow give me some perspective. And, I thought, oh, they're probably not as bad as I remember, or that little thing didn't annoy me as much as I thought. No, we were spot on. And again, it's such a shame that these games were so close. I've been playing a ton of Need for Speed The Run, and again, every time those QuickTime events come up, it's just so maddening. All right, guys, thanks for watching.